Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hashknife channel. I'm Brandon. My son Kalen is with me, and we're going to do an episode of In the Chute. Kalen, what do you got for us today?
All right, so we're going to be wrapping up a month of thankfulness. We already did some thankful stuff with my mama, and she said that she had some top 10 thankful things sprung them on me. I had to ad hoc come up with those 10 things. Then she didn't do it, so she had to come up with those things. Then we talked about it, and now we're on to dad. So mom and I had some similar things, and just to kind of recap, because this was a week ago when we recorded, but this is going to be you actually hearing it for the first time. I talked about, and in no way, shape, or form are these in order, but the thankful things I had with the ranch where I stayed out of trouble growing up, gave me a little bit of responsibility. Definitely, yeah, definitely built my character. I had some unique experiences that now that I'm in the military and out in the world for the last 5 years, I've realized other people don't have. I always took that for granted, but I appreciate it more now. I was thankful for knowing how to work hard, learning how to care and heal after animals. I always have a place to return to after the military because once I transition, I actually know where I'm going, where some people they just never know. It's an escape from people. And then I did learn some skills of like hunting, fixing things, kind of fabricating things. And then of course the last one was all the pets growing up with the fuzzy animals, horses, dogs, cows, what have you. So with that, what are some of your thankful things on the ranch? And you got about 12 minutes now.
Oh God, that's a really difficult one actually
Mhm.
for me. I mean, it's tough. I
It
mean,
took
and
me a
springing
half
this on
hour.
me.
I mean, yeah, I spring it on you, but it took me a half hour sitting there when mom said it that I was like writing it down, talking to her, and I had to kind of think
Yeah.
about that.
It's a privilege in a way to be able to be here. Um, Even though, I mean, it's hard. It's a hard life. It isn't easy. Anybody in agriculture knows that
Right.
this is not an easy life. It's not an 8 to 5, but with that, the payoff with that is that um, you are more in tune with everything around you. And not that I'm in tune, some nature geek that, is hugging trees and stuff, but I mean, you watch the animals, you watch wild animals, you watch birds, you see plants, you notice things and how they change and how they interact. What's one that's needed to survive for one species and how they're codependent, interdependent. These niches, um, and having an appreciation for that, or the ability to even know about that, because there's a lot of people, that they simply it's foreign to them. So I feel lucky. I don't feel like I'm any, better than. I just feel lucky to be able to have that. Um, and then what's even more important is to be able to pass that on to you guys, you and Braden.
That was
I mean,
that was one of mom's things. She said the
yeah,
fact that it's not necessarily her family tradition, but being able to pass on that family tradition in one way, shape, or form to the next generation. That
yeah,
was also what spurred the LLC, right? Like she said
right.
that was, that was one thing that she was really thankful for, that it wasn't something that she originally thought growing up. Oh, I'm gonna live on a ranch somewhere in the middle of Montana, but it just happened that way. And she's like, hey, I'm kind of glad that we get to share that with you boys. So
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's still part of that family heritage, and you're right. Your mom married into this, um, and I've been a part of this, my entire life, and generations before me, that I didn't even know. I knew my great grandpa, but I did not know my great great grandpa.
right.
He was gone, long before I would ever arrive. But um, the way she has became part of this place, it's a part of her too. And we've worked it along with your grandpa and grandma, more as an ancillary portion to it, until we formally, brought the ranch together as an LLC, to be able to not buy it from one generation to another. I mean, like your grandpa said, he said, this is insane.
Right.
Each generation buys it and you can never get ahead. And even though we're combining our resources, we're still doing the same thing in a way, but we're paying ourselves or borrowing from ourselves. with our sweat equity and what we've accomplished in our outside jobs to get to this point. So it's not free. It
Yeah.
comes with, I mean, you and your brother, whatever your paths meet and do, are going to at some point, you're going to be spending some money on this place. It's an ebb and flow. So some years are good, most are not, but in order to make that happen, it's a balance, I guess, is the best way. But that's one of the things I'm really thankful for, is that I'm super thankful that your mother is the person she is. Because there's not it's marrying into something like this is not uh for a lot of people. And she is a absolute um she's I shouldn't say it, but she's nearly perfect. I mean, she is the kindest, sweetest person you'd ever meet. And I've had to toughen her up over the years because people took advantage of that. And I mean, yeah, and that. So for her to do this and never have that experience prior, I mean, some of her grandparents had farms, but it was well removed from her reality where she was at. So um, for her to kind of come back to that, not as part of her growing up and sticking with it and being involved, and it really means something to her. It would break her heart if something happened where we had to sell this. I know it would, as much as mine. I mean, that'd be devastating. So I'm thankful for that as well. I mean, that's part of that whole portion of you boys and her, that I can wrap my thankfulness around as the greatest thing of all. Because without that, the rest of it fails. There's nothing there. There's nothing to work for, or to be able to uh, uh, have some of the fruits of that labor uh, come about from.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Sorry about the barking if you can hear that. I'm babysitting a dog right now.
Was that yours or was that mine? Because I'm
No.
babysitting one too. I got a grand puppy that's
Oh no, it's definitely the one that's in my background.
you
But
couldn't
yeah.
tell.
No, I agree though. Like that was the one thing, is um having probably one of the bigger ones for me on that list, is having somewhere to go, because I just know so many people that once they leave and they go into the military, like they don't really have a home again, because we're so mobile, and to be able to have that, and then to have the, like you said, the history and the heritage behind that's another thing too, because same thing, I know one great grandfather, barely. I knew my grandfather and my grandmother, obviously, but you were able to know your grandparents better probably than I ever did.
Oh,
But
that
just that, yeah.
when you think about that, that is something I reflect on all the time. I can remember being in high school. I had all my grandparents. They were all
Yeah.
alive, and I thought, "Oh God, someday I'm not going to have any of them." And that someday is here. I mean, it has been for, oh God, 15, almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Um, that I lost my last one, the one you knew, Grandpa Wayne Carpenter. But um, the time that I spent with them and worked with them, lived with them, did things with them, is one of those things I wish you guys could have done more. And with more than just your grandpa and grandma, and you got your other grandpa and grandma too. But it's uh, the volume and the sheer amount of time is not the same.
Right.
And I learned so much from them, and have such deep respect for them, and love all of my grandparents, miss them dearly. You know, all the time I think about them, think about dad. But for you guys to have that and some of that knowledge of what I did, I hope that that bestows a little bit of that appreciation for them, and that you get to know them a little bit through me.
Hmm.
Because you guys you'll ask things, what would they have done, or what were they like, what would they say about this, and you know you think until you you don't have them there to reflect on, or that they're there to ask. But I think I know how mostly they would have, because I knew them so well. That was a huge privilege, enormous privilege, to be able to live with my grandparents and know them that well, and work with them and learn from them.
Yeah. Well,
Again, it's heritage. It's not just a place to go. This is not just a place to go. It's a heritage to return to. and
Yeah,
to continue.
it's really a life.
Yeah, it is.
Something that people
Yeah.
don't, I don't think they get that at all. But
Yeah.
so I guess those are probably your biggest things with being thankful.
There's all the other stuff, the health, and all of
Yeah,
that is fairly cliche. It's true. It really is. But to have a stable, uh, a stable marriage with your mother, and
especially in
having a
agriculture, because everybody jokes about like, don't
oh
work cows with your wife.
oh, and there's times when I've snapped at her and I feel bad afterwards, and she just rolls with it. I mean,
So I'll tell you one thing. She was telling me, I think it was part of the thankful thing, was she says, now the one thing that I had to get your father to understand was he has to talk to me differently when it comes to like riding horses, because you could be a little rougher and less, I guess, less patient with me and Braden, because we were little kids and we're growing up, and like that's how you learn. Like, hey, figure it out, man. Like this, just these are the rules, figure it out. But then
well, and you're
her,
boys, you're a little tougher. You're
yeah, that
tougher
too.
skin.
Yeah. But then you trying to teach her in her mid-30s how to ride. And she's like, listen, I didn't grow up like you did, where all you boys are in diapers and you're riding a horse for the first time. This is
Right.
probably the 10th time in my entire life I've ever been on the back of a horse. You have to think of that in that way. I'm like, oh, didn't think about
Yeah, no, and she was right. And you know what? She could speak up and tell me that thing, but a lot of times it takes her a while,
that. Yeah.
because she just thinks it's going to go away. And it's like, well, you don't want that to fester. But yeah, I had to treat her like I would treat a client,
Mm-hmm.
and be just super eggshelly, and think about her feelings, and try to communicate that in a way that you lose that familiarity, but more a
Right.
professional way about it. And um, I'm glad she can talk to me like that. I mean, really, I mean,
Yeah.
because we're just guys don't communicate well. We don't listen. We don't talk. I mean, we're using up a lot of words. This is hard sometimes because we're using up a lot of words that I'm only doled out so many at birth, and I'm starting to get towards the end of them. Where women are so um, wrapped up, or that, I mean, that's how they express themselves, is verbally a lot. And you know listening to her, and being thankful that when I don't listen and I'm trying to fake my way through it, and she is so patient about, you didn't hear what I said.
Nope.
Yeah, I heard it. What was it? Mm, and you pick up something that was 2 days ago. Well, but yeah, humor is another one. um Being able to see the best things, and your mother is fantastic at that. I'm not quite as forgiving as she is. I mean, I spent a lot of time in law enforcement, and that does jade you. It really does. I mean, you see some of the worst in people, and I didn't see it really bad for, I didn't spend 35, 40 years in that, where I know people who have. But she keeps me more, um I think, towards the softer, kinder side, and makes me look at things from her perspective, and that things aren't necessarily always, bad. That people do have good intentions, even though they screw up or do something stupid. It isn't because they're malicious. That's a lot of times the first thing I go to is like,
Yeah.
well, why'd they do that? Just because of that, the way you look, and you live like that for being able to survive. And anybody who's ever worked in law enforcement for any time at all will tell you the same thing. I mean, it's all about situational awareness all the time. Listen to any soldier. I mean, them. You've been there.
Yeah.
It's about your personal well-being, is got to be preserved first. You can't do that without taking care of somebody, or you can't take care of anybody else without doing that first. But she has really kept me more grounded like that, and more forgiving, I guess, and think about things. And I can talk to her. She can, um, straighten me. She can straighten my butt out, and she's almost always right. I mean, I have to say, there's a lot of times when I'm a little too strict, a little too hard. Growing up with you guys, and I would discipline you guys pretty hard, and she would back me up. I wouldn't say anything. That was her backing me up. And then when things were over with and you're out of earshot, or later that night, we would have a conversation. And sometimes, and she goes, "Really? You think that was necessary?" But she never ever, and I never ever, contradicted her in front of you guys. And so having that cohesiveness of, we want our kids to turn out better than us. That's really what parents want. I think they should. If they don't, there's something wrong there. But sometimes the means to that can be less than adequate or
Yeah.
a little hard. And she can do that with me. And I, you're going, nah, dang it. But we really have never argued seriously about stuff. I mean, I know people's relationships where they yell and scream at each other, and we just don't do that. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I want to live like that. Anyway.
Well, that's Dad's thankful for the ranch, and thankfulness for Mom too.
And the boys, and you and you and your brother. It's all for naught if we didn't have you guys. And if you were dirt bags and didn't come back, what's the point?
Yeah, that's a good point. And you get a grandpuppy out of it.
Yeah, that's what I needed, was a grandpuppy out of it.
All right, with that, we will put this last thankful episode to pasture.